Voice of Geekdom is on Patreon. Your support is vital to keeping this channel running and creating new content. Check out the link in the description below to gain access to raw audio files of my video narrations, Discord server access, and priority questions during livestream events. Hello Tolkien geeks. This year, for today's Tolkien Reading Day, the Tolkien Society announced the theme of love and friendship. Friendship, and specifically the love and brotherhood between the main cast of characters, is obviously one of the big themes within The Lord of the Rings. I've chosen to focus on two characters who aren't very often thought about as one of the great bromances of the group, despite the fact that they actually spend quite a lot of time together, and there is clearly great affection between them. Gandalf's recurring irritation with Pippin's less helpful traits, to put it kindly, is talked about much more often in the fandom than their friendship is, and I think this can lead to a little bit of a one-sided point of view. The relationship between these two characters is often quite touching, and also frequently very revealing about aspects of both characters. Pippin is the youngest of the four hobbits, and at the beginning of the story, he's a slightly naive and occasionally juvenile young hobbit, it has to be said. Frodo accepts Merry and Pippin as companions after the older, more worldly Merry revealed their conspiracy, exposing Frodo's plan to leave the Shire. As we know, Pippin became engrossed in the quest right until the very end, proving both his usefulness and his bravery many times over. On a surface level, Gandalf does seem to show his frustration with Pippin's antics on several occasions, and yet, when push comes to shove, Gandalf shows that he values Pippin as much as any of the other members of the company. After the Council of Elrond concluded, but before the Nine Walkers depart from Rivendell together, Elrond is choosing companions to travel with Frodo and Sam when he suggests that the final two names chosen to make up the number should perhaps be two of the elves of his own household. Pippin loudly objects to this. "But that will leave no place for us," cried Pippin in dismay. "We don't want to be left behind. We want to go with Frodo." "That is because you do not understand, and cannot imagine what lies ahead," said Elrond. "Neither does Frodo," said Gandalf, unexpectedly supporting Pippin. "Nor do any of us see clearly. It is true that if these hobbits understood the danger, they would not dare to go. But they would still wish to go, or wish that they dared, and be shamed and unhappy. I think, Elrond, that in this matter it would be well to trust rather to their friendship than to great wisdom. Even if you chose for us an elf lord, such as Glorfindel, he could not storm the Dark Tower, nor open the road to the fire by the power that is in him." This monologue from Gandalf is in keeping with the reasoning that was earlier used to determine a course of action to deal with the ring itself during the council. When Elrond and Gandalf had made their case for seeking the fire of Mount Doom to destroy the ring, after discussing and eliminating a number of other possibilities, Elrond says that this quest may be attempted by the weak with as much hope as the strong. Yet such is oft the course of deeds that move the wheels of the world. Small hands do them because they must, while the eyes of the great are elsewhere. When Gandalf advises Elrond to trust rather to their friendship than to great wisdom, and backs Merry and Pippin to travel with the company of the ring, he is reminding Elrond of this notion. But I think Gandalf really sees something special in the hobbits too, and he sees all four of them as worthy of their part in events. Merry, Pippin and Sam are each tribute to the sacrifice of the ordinary everyday hero during wartime, and Pippin's character exemplifies this through the lens of a young man reaching maturity and finding his courage. Now, I can guess what you might be thinking. Gandalf is known for being quick to anger, as Gildor says to Frodo, and as noted, he's especially abusive to Pippin on a number of occasions. In fact, by my count, Gandalf uses the words fool or foolish 23 times in The Lord of the Rings, and a massive 7 of those are directed personally at Pippin. The next most numerous case of the word applied to an individual is to Saruman, who is called a fool by Gandalf on only 3 occasions. Well, Gandalf's not entirely wrong about Pippin. Pippin's lack of sense does get the party into trouble on several occasions, and Gandalf's ire is well earned. But Gandalf's friendship with Pippin is never supposed to be seen as an equal one. He is tough at times with all of the hobbits, because he believes in their value, not because he regards them as any sort of liability. There's also the cultural context to consider here. Hobbits deal with stressful or dangerous situations by using humour, and especially banter, as coping mechanisms. Gandalf, having become accustomed to their social practices over the course of his long friendship with Bilbo, banters with the hobbits quite expertly. The hobbits do the same, but it's meant affectionately. On one occasion, when Gandalf is attempting to find the entry word to the doors of Durin and enter Moria, Boromir questions the wizard's logic, as well as the veracity of his story about having passed through the mines previously. "What was the use of bringing us to this accursed spot?" cried Boromir, glancing back with a shudder at the dark water. "You told us that you had once passed through the mines. How could that be if you did not know how to enter?" "The answer to your first question, Boromir," said the wizard, "is that I do not know the word yet. But we shall soon see. And," he added, with a glint in his eyes under their bristling brows, "you may ask what is the use of my deeds when they are proved useless. As for your other question, do you doubt my tale? Or have you no wits left? I did not enter this way, I came from the east. If you wish to know, I will tell you that these doors open outwards. From the inside you may thrust them open with your hands. From the outside nothing will move them, save the spell of command. They cannot be forced inwards." "What are you going to do then?" asked Pippin, undaunted by the wizard's bristling brows. "Knock on the door with your head, Peregrine Took," said Gandalf. "But if that does not shatter them, and I am allowed a little peace from foolish questions, I will seek for the opening words." Here, Gandalf's rebuke at Pippin is really aimed at Boromir, who is used to commanding rather than following, and objects to Gandalf's choice of route through Moria. And more than that, he openly doubts the purpose of the quest from the very beginning, having taken several opportunities to undermine Gandalf's authority ever since leaving Rivendell. Pippin's adorable inquisitiveness is not the cause of the tension in the party, and Pippin himself would understand this. Pippin scores highly in emotional intelligence, even if he sometimes lacks common sense. On other occasions, Gandalf encourages Pippin's inquisitive nature. During the ride from Edoras to Minas Tirith, after Pippin looks into the Palantir, Gandalf indulges the hobbit's stream of questions rather than silencing or admonishing him for it. When Gandalf does comment on Pippin's relentless curiosity, he does so in good humour and acceptance. "Mercy!" cried Gandalf. "If the giving of information is to be the cure of your inquisitiveness, I shall spend all the rest of my days in answering you. What more do you want to know?" And when Pippin responds, he does so in kind, gently teasing Gandalf back. "The names of all the stars, and of all living things, and the whole history of Middle-earth and over heaven, and of the sundering seas," laughed Pippin. "Of course! What less? But I am not in a hurry tonight." This is how friends who have braved great dangers together will speak to one another. We reach the final test of the love and friendship between these two characters when they arrive at Minas Tirith together. Pippin, in recognition and honour of Boromir's valiant defence of he and Merry, offers his service to Denethor. Gandalf afterwards says of Pippin's choice, "I do not know what put it into your head or your heart to do that, but it was well done. I did not hinder it, for generous deeds should not be checked by cold counsel." Gandalf respects Pippin's autonomy and judgment here in a way that is quite sincere and touching. Thinking about Gandalf here as a teacher, and not as a leader in war or as a magician, we get the sense that Gandalf is proud of his young friend and of the growth and newfound confidence in him. Despite the fact that Pippin's pledge to Denethor may carry baggage with it, Gandalf trusts Pippin to navigate whatever is ahead. Later on, when the city is surrounded and Denethor's mind has broken, the issue of Pippin's oath to Denethor comes to a head when the steward of Gondor releases him from his service. "Farewell," he said. "Farewell, Peregrine, son of Paladin. Your service has been short, and now it is drawing to an end. I release you from the little that remains. Go now and die in what way seems best to you, and with whom you will, even that friend whose folly brought you to this death. Send for my servants and then go. Farewell." "I will not say farewell, my lord," said Pippin, kneeling. And then, suddenly hobbit-like once more, he stood up and looked the old man in the eyes. "I will take your leave, sir," he said, "for I want to see Gandalf very much indeed. But he is no fool, and I will not think of dying until he despairs of life. But from my word and your service, I do not wish to be released while you live. And if they come at last to the citadel, I hope to be here and stand beside you and earn perhaps the alms that you have given me." Pippin's defiance in the face of Denethor's madness and his resolve to continue to serve here is the culmination of his coming-of-age story arc. Pippin finds his courage, something he wouldn't have been able to do if Gandalf had not allowed him to follow his own convictions. He has come a long way from the young, irresponsible hobbit gentleman who wanted to make a stop at the Golden Perch Inn in the Shire, while being pursued by Black Riders. Gandalf loves and cares for each of the hobbits, but there's something very special about his relationship with Pippin, if a little understated and unusual. It's an odd dynamic that they have, but Gandalf trusts his heart where it comes to his friends, and Pippin makes him proud in the end.
And my axe.
Thank you to my Axe tier Patreon supporters: Erin M, Stephen Stark the Maya from Here Be Dragons, Kelly the Jaded Shipwright, Alexander Petrov, Joshua Boniface, and our newest axe wielder, A.N. Kreutzberg.